All right, one thought every game. Week 7 is in the books. KC Joyner, NFL insider, set to join us here. He'll give us his thoughts. One thought every game on this Week 7 slate, which continues tonight. We'll have it for you. Bears and Rams on 97.3 ESPN. We'll have Casey's one thought on every game in just a second, but let's take a look at that one as we get you ready for Monday Night Football. And, of course, you can hear it right here on 97.3 ESPN. Rams at home, taking on Nick Foles. Very good defense. You know, Casey, when I look at the NFC, a lot of the better teams, Seattle, Green Bay, New Orleans, they all don't have very good defenses. The Bears have a really good defense, but they don't score all that much. Makes this game pretty interesting tonight.
Yeah, it should be pretty interesting tonight. And mind you, they probably have more talent on offense than what their production has shown. I mean, Robinson's a very good receiver. Montgomery's a good back. I mean, they've got some talent. I think part of it is they like to play low-scoring games. They don't want to. They realize that, hey, we're not slated to get in any kind of a shootout thing because they posted fewer than 300 offensive yards in 3 straight games. You know, the Rams have tallied 400 more offensive yards in 4 contests, and I think they could win a higher scoring matchup more easily. So I picked the Rams because I think they'll be able to get it in a bit more high scoring than the Bears want.
Well, and this Rams team, I mean, last year they missed the playoffs, but what is different about this Rams team from the one that missed the playoffs last year?
I think they want to, people, fantasy managers, tearing their hair up because they don't know what to do with the backfield. But having said that, they have 3 quality backs. Gurley last year was not the back that he had been, and so they've got 3 backs that they can lean on, and they can rotate them, and they can keep them fresh, and it allows them to be more of a run-heavy team than they were last year. I think they started to get away. That's one of the things when you have a passing play caller, they tend to want to throw the ball more often sometimes than they should, and you kind of got to break them with the habit, sort of like Andy Reid did last year with the Chiefs, realizing I can't just keep throwing the ball all the time. And I think McVay has realized that I've got to have a power rushing game to augment my passing game. I can't just be pass heavy. So I think that's the big difference.
Bears, Nick Foles is obviously taken over there. Does he give them a better chance to win, or is it negligible?
I think he does give them a better chance because remember what Foles is when he's really good. I mean, when he's that good, you know what his ceiling is. We've seen it, Super Bowl win that one season where he only had 2 picks, 27 touchdown passes, I think the number was. So, I mean, when he's that good, he's that good. And Trubisky, frankly, just isn't that good. And it tells me something about the Bears that they felt that we need to bring in somebody to push Trubisky, and that Trubisky still didn't play that much better. It says that this isn't a talent issue. This isn't a problem where Trubisky just didn't have the physical skills. It's just that he's not adjusting to life in the NFL, and we know what Foles can do, and he plays that well. So he's just a higher ceiling player.
Bears offensively, as you mentioned, they got a little bit of talent here, but in this particular game, is their defense the difference? The Rams have pretty good defense, but Jared Goff, I guess there's some questions still about him, and is the difference maker in this game the Bears defense?
The Bears defense has been, they've given up fewer than 20 points in 3 straight games, and 4 out of the last 5 contests they get up 19 or fewer points. So that's really good. They've got turnovers in 5 out of 6 games, and they've got 4 turnovers the past 2 weeks. So, they're very good there. The thing is, though, is that you can run the ball on them. 5 out of 6 opponents have rushed for over 100 yards against them, but you're not going to throw the ball. The highest yardage total against them for net yards passing is 288, and that was in Week 1. They haven't even given up as many as 250 in any of the other games. So I think this is a game where the Rams are going to want to lean on that ground game as much as they can. But having said that, if you do that, you play into the low-scoring battle that Chicago wants to get you in.
All right, that game tonight, 97.3 ESPN's coverage begins at 7:30. You can hear it right here on 97.3 ESPN. KC Joyner, NFL insider, will take one thought on every Week 7 game. And obviously, as this season continues to kind of move on here, we're getting a little bit better feel on a lot of these teams now. So let's dive into our one thought on every game and get KC Joyner's thoughts on them. Let's start with Detroit and Atlanta. Atlanta, again, it looked like they're going to win this game. They got it. Gurley scores, but he probably shouldn't have scored, and they lose again at home. Detroit gets a nice win there. All of a sudden, hey, Detroit's kind of back around, I guess, in maybe the wild card race. I don't think anybody takes them serious, but all of a sudden they are back at 500.
Yeah, they are, and it was shades of Brian Westbrook, but he didn't quite get there. He's got to, he had to stop at the half-yard line. It's like he forgot that he was supposed to stop and get there until he got right to the end zone. His running back just wants to get in the end zone, so I get it. But the Lions, hey, they came back. It wasn't just that they got a mistake there. They had to go down and score, and they did, and they had to kick a long PAT to win. So I give the Lions a lot of credit. And with 7 playoff teams, they do have a chance of being a wild card team if they keep this up.
Yeah, there's a lot of depth in the NFC, though.
A chance, a small one.
I'm with you there. I mean, they are 500, so that's more than all the teams in the NFC East can say. All right, let's go to Cleveland, Cincinnati. What a wild one. A couple thoughts on this one here. Cleveland, puts up 37. Big game. Joe Burrow goes over 400 yards. I mean, back and forth they went, but Cleveland, without OBJ, pulls this out.
Yeah, they do, and Cincinnati gets into those sorts of shootout contests and things, and Burrow was the first quarterback, I believe I have this number correct, first rookie quarterback to throw for 400 yards, throw for 3 touchdowns, and get a rushing touchdown in a game. I mean, he's putting up phenomenal numbers, but Cincinnati will get into those sorts of contests. The Browns, though, you can't keep getting into these high-scoring games. You lose OBJ now, and your offense is just not that kind of game. They got to get back to that power rushing attack, or these are going to be kind of games they lose in the future.
All right, let's. By the way, do you like their offense better without OBJ? It seemed a little bit more smooth once he left.
I think they try to force too much of their offense through to him, and that's probably not a good move for them. They need to be a more balanced offense. He's a sort of receiver, though, kind of diva that you got to throw the ball to him. So it might be somewhat addition by subtraction, but you can't lose that kind of talent. It's not a good thing to lose somebody of that caliber.
All right, let's go into maybe the game of the weekend. Pittsburgh, Tennessee, 27-24. Pittsburgh wins it on the road. They go up big. Tennessee comes back. A missed field goal would have sent it to overtime, a makeable one. A 44-yarder. That's a lot of. I mean, I feel like Tennessee's missed a lot of field goals. That one there really ends up changing the game though, because they could have gone to overtime. But Pittsburgh stays unbeaten.
Pittsburgh stays unbeaten. They Tomlin. We talked about this before, that there are games when they will Tomlin and they'll play down to the competition level. But in this contest, my son and I were watching them. When they get up 27-7 and A.J. Brown gets that big touchdown pass, we both looked at each other and said the comeback's beginning, because Pittsburgh thought we're up 27-7 and downshifted and weren't playing as hard as they had before. I don't want to take anything away from the Titans, but that's the way Pittsburgh is. So they play 4 quarters. There's not a team in the league that can beat them, but they won't play 4 quarters all the time. So they're lucky to get away with that one.
All right, next up on the Week 7 slate, Carolina, New Orleans. I like this Carolina team. They just are missing something. Not sure what it is. They're right there in that game, but New Orleans feels different too.
I think what they're missing is Christian McCaffrey. He's in these contests. I think they're more that they could have 5 wins because Mike Davis is just finally running out of gas. I mean, and a great friend to fill in and things. He's just not a guy you're going to be able to get that kind of production for that many games. So they'll get better when they get McCaffrey back, which will probably be Week 9. But the Saints are winning high-scoring games, and they don't want to get into high-scoring games. They pull out another one, but they're the kind of team also that needs to keep the score lower because they don't have the kind of offense that's going to be able to keep up, especially with what's going on Thomas.
All right, heading to next up, we've got Buffalo and the Jets. This one here, I mean, Buffalo was a 9.5-point favorite. They took care of business, but, man, it was an ugly one. What's going on with the Bills? Why? We talked about this earlier. I feel like Buffalo, okay, they can win that division. Maybe they're a playoff team, but I feel like they are definitively a step below the top of the AFC teams. I don't
want to. It has to do with in the first few games of the season, teams were playing very man-heavy coverage against their 3 and 4 wide receiver sets, and they were getting toasted. And a few games ago, and teams started playing zone against them. And once teams started playing much more zone-heavy, Josh Allen just isn't as good at reading zones as he is at reading man coverage, and it's slowing down their offense. Now, they need to embrace this, though, because they're never the kind of team that's going to be a shootout-caliber team. They need to embrace the idea that we need to get in the lower-scoring games. And this is not what they had in mind, but they got the win, so maybe it's going to be good for them.
All right, they get the win, and the Jets fall to 0-7. They play Kansas City next week. Good luck with that. Dallas and Washington. Let's take a little deeper look at this one. Dallas is real bad. I mean, that's evident now. They are real bad. They lose 25-3 against a very bad Washington team here. Let's first look at Dallas here. What are some of the big problems that Dallas has?
Where don't they have problems? Zeke is playing terrible. He looks disinterested. Obviously, Dalton was playing bad before he got knocked out. DiNucci, their third stringer, he can't cut it. They've got if you take their receiving core, their trio, their top three receivers, they might not be the best 40, but they've got the top three receivers in the league. If you said, I'm going to take a trio of wideouts, and they can't get anything done with them. But the Cowboys players, when you hear them anonymously saying, we don't think our coaching staff knows what they're talking about, if you talk to players, they'll tell you that that's the number one thing that will get the team to turn on its coach, if they don't think the coaches know what they're doing. And right now, that's what the players are saying about the coaches behind the scenes, reportedly. And if that's the case, if that really is it, this Cowboys team is done, because if the players quit on the coaches, you can't turn around from it.
People thought this team had talent. There were some people that thought they were in the Super Bowl. I mean, the line, they got some injuries there. But what happened to the defense?
What happened to the defense is they can't even play the basic coverages. I mean, Nolan was talking last week about, hey, we're calling coverages that these players should know from high school. We're calling basic cover 3 defenses that these players should know what they're doing. And you see the players don't know what they're doing, and they're not making the most basic of plays. And normally, when a team can't execute at that level, if you look at it and say, look, they've got more talent than what they're saying, it comes down to coaching. I really think when McCarthy, when he was gone in Green Bay, I said on Twitter that I would be surprised if any team hired him because of how badly he coached in certain situations in Green Bay, and he got away with it because he had Aaron Rodgers. And people lambasted me, oh, no way, McCarthy will get hired. McCarthy, he's got a Super Bowl, of course he'll get hired. Well, look what's happened. I'm not trying to say I was right, but look, people around the league will tell you that he doesn't really, that he's not a great play caller, and he misses a lot of those things, and his players catch on to it. And if they don't think that the coaches know what they're doing, they're just not going to play that hard. And this is, I think, the crux of what the problem is with the Cowboys.
What about Washington? I mean, if they had stable quarterback play, are they the team in the East that not enough? I mean, everybody seems it was Dallas or Philly, even though it was bad. But is Washington in the mix?
You got to give credit to Ron Rivera for making the quarterback change, because look at what they've done. They went toe-to-toe with the Giants. Everybody figured there's no way they're going to win that contest. They almost did, and then they thrashed the Cowboys. Now they've got a bye week and things. I think he knew that our quarterback play with Haskins is so bad, it's costing us contest. Even though we're getting a lot of, we're getting some passing production and things, we're not playing that one. We're turning the ball over too much. They had 8 turnovers in 3 games at one point, but they have 2 in the past 3 weeks. So I think that making that coaching change got them to a level to where, they can compete with the NFC East.
Oh, boy, it's going to be an ugly ride down the stretch they come. By the way, Philly and Dallas this Sunday night. Casey's back on Friday with a breakdown of that game. One thought on every game Friday night, including the Eagles and Cowboys. Cowboys 2-5, Washington 2-5, Philadelphia 2-4-1. They have a half-game lead in the East. That's your matchup on Sunday night. Green Bay goes to Houston. They pick up a win. They bounce back after that ugly loss to Tampa. And Houston obviously is going through kind of a transition with the new coach.
They are, and they just have a horrible defense. I mean, their defense gives up 160-plus rushing yards in nearly every contest, and you can't have that kind of defense against the Packers. And they also couldn't figure out how to do any kind of man coverage against Adams. They don't even have people who can cover Adams in man coverage. I have no idea why they were even trying.
Good effort by them. Get out of there. All right. Tampa Bay goes to Vegas, and they put up 45. They had Antonio Brown. Do they even need him? They can't. Vegas can't keep up. 45-20.
The thing is Arians said that I read Peter King's column this morning, and Arians had told him that the problem for the Bucs receivers is that none of them are like, all three of them are either 80%, 85%. None of them are fully healthy. That's one of the reasons he brought in Antonio, so he can maybe rest a receiver and one of the top 3 receivers and say, okay, we can get back to full strength. But think about that. If they're not healthy and they can put up 45 and Brady can look as good as he does, I mean, it speaks volumes to this team with that defense. This is they're a top 2 or 3 Super Bowl contender right now.
Yeah, I like them a lot as well. Kansas City goes to Denver and quietly puts up 43, even when Mahomes doesn't have a big day. Just too much Kansas City in this one.
They had too much Kansas City, and they knew they could play a different caliber of game because they know that Denver just couldn't keep up in the shootout. Denver couldn't even turn the game into a shootout if they wanted to. So that let the Chiefs be a certain type of aggressive that they don't normally try to be against more dangerous offenses. And the Broncos couldn't even do a flea flicker play properly. And that shows you how bad they are on offense.
San Francisco, 33-6. Patriots got to start wondering, is this Patriots team just not that good? And San Francisco, after a couple of tough losses, they lose at home to Philly, they lose at home bad to the Dolphins, they're turning things around.
Power football wins games, and San Francisco sticks with power football. And sometimes, if you don't have the if you have problems with defense, you can lose games you should win, but they can play power football all the time. And the Patriots really are not that good. They're terrible on offense. And I was surprised, though, that out of the pickers on NFLPickWatch.com, 70% of the experts picked the Patriots to win that contest. I picked the 49ers fairly comfortably. Didn't feel that weird about it because the 49ers just play a brand of football that's really good, and the Patriots are that bad. So I think it's finally catching on with the world, though the Patriots really are a team that might struggle to be 500 this year.
Yeah, I mean, Newton played okay the first couple of weeks. I mean, he was giving them something. He was terrible yesterday.
He's awful, and he's making a lot of mistakes. And even talking today, they were saying that Belichick said, yeah, he's definitely our starter. And Newton's saying, I'm not worried about the coaching staff. I'm worried about keeping my teammates believing in me. And I'm like, wow, that's kind of scary. Not that you shouldn't care about the coaching staff, but obviously Newton thinks that his teammates are thinking that he's not up to par. If that's the case and they do start believing that, I think this thing could go south. So the Patriots they have very limited windows to victory just given their talent on offense.
Jacksonville 39, Chargers 39, Jacksonville 29. Justin Herbert continues to be really impressive, man. I really love watching that kid play, and Minshew Mania might have seen the end of the road.
Yeah, it might have. I mean, Robinson had a very good game for them, and that's a tough game for them, too. It's a cross-country road trip against a team that's probably more talented than they are. Herbert playing as well as he is. I got to say, though, think about it. We got Herbert, and we got Joe Burrow. You're talking Offensive Rookie of the Year. That's a fantastic race. We are very lucky as football fans to have these two because Herbert is just he's a different player here at the Chargers than he was at Oregon. He was pretty good at Oregon.
He was, and he could have came out probably his junior year. He decided to stay and ended up bouncing them down a little bit, but the Chargers have really made out in that one. And unfortunate situation with Tyrod Taylor and that whole thing, but they had to stick, and they made the right decision sticking with Herbert. 347 yards for Justin yesterday. All right, Seattle and Arizona. This was a good one last night. Arizona, they disappointed me losing that game to the Lions. They had another disappointing loss somewhere in there that they didn't play all that well for a couple of weeks, but now all of a sudden, this Arizona team, there's always teams that did make the playoffs one year, they get into it next year. You got to start looking at Arizona as maybe one of those teams, and in a very competitive West, they're right in the mix.
They have 400 or more offensive yards, net offensive yards in 5 out of 7 games this year. Their problem is their defense gave up 572 yards yesterday and 444 yards just a couple of weeks ago. But they get a lot of turnovers, and if they keep getting a lot of turnovers, they can win games like this. I'm more worried about Seattle because before that game, Arizona had allowed fewer than 20 points in 3 of their last 6 contests. So their defense is kind of holding up. Seattle's defense is just atrocious. They've allowed fewer than 30 points only 3 times this year, and they've allowed 400 or more yards in every game, including 519 yesterday. Their defense is awful, and they have a great record in shootout games, but you can't expect to win 3 playoff games as shootouts. You're just not going to do it. So they need to find another way to win, or else they're going to have more disappointing losses like this.
And then, of course, tonight we told you Chicago and the Rams. That's what we have on 97.3 ESPN. Indy, Miami, Minnesota, and Baltimore, they are your bye weeks, and that is one thought on every Week 7 game. Real quick, the Thursday night game, I'll get your thought. Atlanta is playing Carolina. We've talked about how bad Atlanta is in Carolina. If they can get this win, I guess they would be sticking around Carolina on Thursday night. If they can win, they would be 4-4, and that keeps them in the wild card mix.
It does. I would expect that they could win because Atlanta has too many weaknesses on defense, and Carolina is playing well on defense. It's just a matter of the Carolina offense can keep up. But they were using a backup to Davis, a guy named Trenton Cannon, I believe is who it was, and he actually was showing some burst, and they need to keep going to him because if they can get a 1-2 combination between those two to keep Davis fresh and to get the kind of production that we're getting out of their backfield, they ought to win that contest 6 times out of 10.
Yeah, and by the way, that Sunday nighter, the Eagles and the Cowboys, we will break down more on Friday, but it's going to be an ugly run to the East here. What's going to get it done? 5, 6 wins?
I think it's going to end up being 7 wins. This has come up many times before. People are like, you get a 7-win division and act like it's the end of professional football and that you need to just get rid of divisions and all that. You don't get rid of the NFC East. You don't get rid of the rivalry that is that division just because you have one bad season. But I think it is going to. I think some teams are going to start playing better down the stretch. And plus, Philly, they're 2-4-1. But I mean, they could if they win the Washington game, they would have 3 wins, and they could have won that. And if that tie was a win, they could easily be a 4-win team right now. And I think that'll show up down the stretch.
Yeah, and another thing is you forget the NFC West a couple of years ago. They were the worst. They were the laughing stock. They were the 7-9. Now they're the best. So it all goes in cycles. Keep the integrity of the divisions. And by the way, the NFL does not want to do get rid of the NFC East teams making the playoffs. That's their biggest market. That's why you see Philly and Dallas and New York, these teams constantly on primetime football games because they score the highest ratings.
They do, and the thing is why would you? It's that, and NFC East fans care about NFC East games, and this AFC North fans care about AFC North games. The division, but people in these divisions, they can. The Packers and the Bears. Are you just going to say we're going to get rid of divisions and have a 16-team NFC, and now Packers Bears doesn't count other than just being a game, and you're going to play each other once every couple of years? That'd be the most idiotic thing the NFL schedulers could do.
All right, KC Joyner, NFL Insider, thefootballscientist.com. Every Monday, every Friday with one thought every game. He'll be back on Friday with one thought on Week 8. We are hitting the halfway point of the NFL season, and he, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. Thank you, Casey.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, he, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline.